incurable, progressive, and hopeless. Have you heard these words before, any of you? Maybe you've thought of it before. I want to welcome you here tonight, and I'm excited, really excited to be here to talk and share with you about this. But the reason I started with these words is because this is what I hear every single day in the office. We hear this every day from people who have really been all over the place. They've been to see lots of different kinds of doctors and different kinds of practitioners. They've been to see holistic doctors. They've been to see naturopaths, chiropractors, MDs, all over the place. And these are the words that we keep hearing. Incurable, progressive, and hopeless. And my hope at the end of the night is that you, if you are suffering from autoimmune disease, or if someone you know is, that you really will have some hope, because there is hope, okay? And we see hope happen every single day. And I want you to do this. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to write this down, okay? I want you to write lifechangingcare.com. And tonight when you get home, or sometime this weekend, I want you to go to this site, and there's a section, a tab called Testimonials. And you can check on that testimonial tab, and you will find literally hundreds of testimonials of people who have had a variety of different health challenges. Autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, some of the stuff you've never even heard of, stuff I'd never even heard of, okay? And lifechangingcare.com is a group of functional medicine practitioners who do what I do, and we consult together around the country. And that's a good place to get hope, okay? Because when the attitude is right, the facts don't matter. And here's the thing, this is what I hear all the time. People come in and they say, I was told that there's not much left that can be done for me. Or a person will come in and say, my mom is suffering from such and such disease, and they were told there's not much that can be left to be done. It's incurable, it's progressive, it's just going to get worse. They've tried the meds, they can't do much else with it. They've removed the organ, they can't do much else with it. But I'm here to tell you that in many, many of those cases, if not most of those cases, what they were told is not really a fact, it's an opinion. Okay? It's an opinion from somebody who said, this is incurable. But when the attitude is right, and when you go to lifechangingcare.com and you read all these testimonials and you find out that people have been helped over and over and over, then you will see, wow, that was really an opinion. These people had an attitude. Their attitude was, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to dig. And digging needs to be done. Believe me, digging has to be done in many of these cases. This is something that was written by a famous author. And this famous author happened to write several books, and he happened to write several letters. This happens to be a guy named Paul, and Paul of Tarsus. Some of you may know him as the Apostle Paul, and he wrote many letters, of course, in the New Testament. One of them was a letter to the church in Philippi. And in that book, he wrote a verse that I love. I love this verse. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely or admirable, and if anything is praiseworthy or excellent, okay, think about these things, right? Think about such things. And this, I believe, this is something that we have to hold on to. This is not just something written for religious purposes. This is about attitude right here. And when the attitude is right, the facts don't matter, okay? And I'm going to share with you a little bit about facts and attitude. This is from a lady named Pam, okay? She just wrote this, actually. It says, my husband and I just enjoyed an evening bike ride around a beautiful RV park in Fort Myers, Florida, where we plan to spend the winter. A year ago, I would have never imagined being here and feeling this great. I had seen my MD several times, and she wanted, 1, to start me on an antidepressant for severe fatigue, and 2, send me to a neurologist for severe irritable bowel symptoms. I was also struggling with my weight, even though I was exercising regularly and eating only 1 meal a day, and I was barely sleeping. My other issue was muscle tightness and pain, even though I was having massage once a week. she was suffering from autoimmune disease. Okay, and I don't care what you name it, it doesn't really matter. There are certain things you have to find out about it, and we're going to go through in the next 3 to 4 hours or so tonight. No, I'm just kidding. It's been that long time. But let me finish this here. It says, I am so grateful each and every day that the Lord led me to Dr. Rob in January. He helped me to understand that I had autoimmune thyroid disease. With his expertise and guidance, I'm now able to enjoy life again. Thank you so much. This is one person, okay? And I'm telling you that we see this happen all the time. But unfortunately, it's oftentimes because they've gone so many other places and people are at the end of their rope, and it's hard to even have hope, even with hearing this. But please, have hope. Now sit back with us. We're going to go on a kind of a little bit of a ride here the next hour or so to try to break this down. What is autoimmunity? What does it really mean? And then what are we going to do about it? Okay, what are we going to do about it? And this is a workshop, right? Workshop implies that you work a little bit. So we gave you some paper. You can take some notes. I gave you a sheet that says Web of Physiologic Dysfunction on the top. And if you haven't yet finished the other sheets, those were part of this program. If you didn't get to it yet, it's all right. We'll make it work. Okay. So I am Dr. Rob Lindsay, and I am a board-certified chiropractic physician, and I have a master's degree in sports medicine. Why do I share that? Because I've been on both sides. Okay, I've worked with allopaths, with physical therapists, with emergency medicine doctors, and that kind of thing. So I know how that side of the fence operates. And let me say this. Excellent. There's nobody better on the planet at crisis intervention than the medical doctors in our country. Okay? Crisis care, they're excellent. If I'm in a car accident, I'm going there. If I break a bone, if one of my kids smacks his head open, if I find out that I've got some really weird, unexplained thing, I might go there for some imaging. Okay? But when it comes to chronic health, here's what we found. Not so good. Not so good. Matter of fact, they don't even like it. Matter of fact, when I talk to medical doctors, they say things like, we don't even want to work with chronic disease because the people are such a pain. I'm not joking. And the reason is because they don't know how to work with it. Because their only tool is a drug or a surgery. Okay, so please hear my heart. I don't want to bash medicine. I'm not. There's limitations there. Okay? So, I have hundreds and hundreds of hours in postgraduate education in things like functional neurology, functional endocrinology. I'm not an endocrinologist, but I know how many of the endocrine organs work and how they work together. And I'm able to consult with a lot of these doctors around the country who you will find on lifechangingcare.com. Okay, so that's just a little bit about me. And my number one goal here tonight, okay, and you can write this down, it is really to reinvent your life. And that's lofty, I know. Reinvent? Really? Reinvent your life? Well, yeah, because when you leave here tonight, your perspective about what it's going to take to get healthy will be completely different. Because I'm going to tell you that there's no pill or potion or lotion that is going to get you well. There's no magic bullet. Okay? It is going to take some change. But here's where many of you, or someone that you know, is right now. You're on this path. You've got a compass. And you're at a crossroads. And the crossroads, you can go this way or you can go this way. And right here tonight, literally tonight, you have a decision. You're going to have a decision to make. We have a decision every single moment. What we're going to do, what we're going to say, what we're going to think, what we're going to put in our mouth, what we're going to exercise or not, right? Every moment. Okay, so you have a choice to go this way or this way. Some of you, or some people that you may know, have a compass and it's broken. It's going the wrong direction. Okay? And hopefully we have some answers for you. Now I want you to write this down. The average life expectancy in the U.S. is 78 years. So you can put a 0 on one side of your page. Okay? That's the day you were born. And you can draw a line across. And you can draw in 78. And that's the day they bury you. Okay? If you're the average American. Some of you are a little closer to that number, right? And I don't want to scare you with that, but I mean, the reality is we don't know when our time is going to come, right? My wife's grandma, who we're going to see next week up in Perham, Minnesota for Thanksgiving, she stopped eating a couple weeks ago. She's been in the nursing home. And that's kind of the end, you know, pretty much you know that she's going out. You know, she's 80 plus years old, but so some people are going to live longer, some are going to live less. Now, here's the thing that's pretty interesting. Let me go back to this for a second. If you take 78 years and you multiply it by 52 weekends in a year, that's about 4,056 weekends that we have on Earth. Is that interesting to think about? 4,000? It sounds like kind of a lot, actually. But now do this for me. I don't know how old you are, okay? But what's going to happen is that the decisions that you make tonight, literally, and in the days ahead, are going to determine if you're going to have less life or you're going to have more life. And that may sound like that's a bold statement, Dr. Rob. Well, it is, because right now, you could leave this place tonight and say, well, that was great information, Dr. Rob, but if you don't do anything with it, that's called foolishness, right? Or what happens tonight could determine if you live longer. Now, here's what I did, okay? I'm 44. So what I did was I took a calculator out I have here, and some of you are going to be a part of my game, I think. And so 78 minus 44 is 34. So I've got 34 years if I do like everybody else, right? If I do like everybody else in our country. So 34 times 52 weekends in a year is 1,768 weekends. Now, when I saw that number, I was like, whoa, because that looks like a lot less than 4,056 to me. Okay, so I'm 44. So some of you are a little bit older, right? Does anybody want to play? How old are you, Nancy?
53.
Okay, so 78 minus 63 is 15. Okay, times 52, 780 weekends. Yeah, you're already on the path to living a lot longer. I know you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you are. Anybody else? Okay, I didn't think so. But you get the gist of that, I think. So how many weekends do you have left? I hope a lot. I hope a lot.
Oh, yeah.
My second goal after tonight is really to make a maximum positive impact, so that when you leave here, you can say, wow, that was impressive, not because of me, but because of what you took away. Okay, that you took away something that you can apply to your life. And the third goal that I have is to provide you with an exit strategy. What does that mean? That means an exit strategy from pain, from suffering, okay, from degenerative changes in your body, from all kinds of health problems. If you left here and didn't have an exit strategy, then this would be worthless. Okay, so that's what tonight is about. To try to take you from where you are now, what's happening prior, to where you want to be. But here's something you really need to write down now, okay? It's going to take lifestyle changes. It's going to take lifestyle changes. If you're not willing to make any sort of a lifestyle change, then maybe you shouldn't be here. I'm not joking. And I hear this. People come in, and they sit down, and I go through a report of findings with them, and I say, this is what we need to do. Thanks, Doc. See you later. Okay. That's fine. I don't have any attachment to that, but I hope that is not going to happen. You have to make a lifestyle change. They don't want to make a lifestyle change. People don't want to change their eating style. They don't want to cut out gluten, for example, because it's hard. They don't want to stop drinking Diet Coke because it's hard. I had a patient here yesterday, okay? She has something called trichotillomania. You ever heard of that before? Okay. It's obsessive compulsive hair pulling. She pulls out her eyebrows and her eyelashes. She's 23 years old. She came in because she heard about another patient, a girl who's 10, who was coming in here who suffers from trichotillomania, who was my first one. I'd never even heard of it before. This is in the summer. So guess what? We had to make some lifestyle changes for this little girl. And she's doing way, way, way better. She only pulls when she gets really stressed, where it was all the time. So there's hope for this gal that we saw yesterday, but this is the thing I was going to say a second ago. On her intake form, we always ask people to make a 7-day food log, so I can kind of see what you've been eating and doing. And she was drinking Dr. Pepper like it was going out of style. I mean, every meal. And I looked at her and I said, "You like Dr. Pepper a lot, don't you?" "Yeah." I said, "How you think you can give that up? She said she's ready. So we'll see, but you know, that's just a, might as well just give you a bomb of inflammation, you know? Here's an inflammation bomb for you. All right. So I want to provide you with an exit strategy. Okay, now here's something I want to stress, all right? So you've got a piece of paper there. You're going to be able to take some notes on. If you're here because of autoimmune disease, which is what the title of this thing is about, okay, or if you know somebody, I want you to understand that it is a physiologic impossibility for you just to have an autoimmune disease. Get that? It's physiologically impossible for you just to have Hashimoto's disease, for example, or Sjogren's syndrome, or multiple sclerosis. It's impossible. What you have, and what every person who has autoimmune disease has, is what we call a web of physiologic dysfunction. And this is what it looks like. And it's complex. And this is where you need somebody who can help you unlock it. Okay? Because there's a precise combination to each person to finding out what's driving that autoimmune disease. And on this picture you can see thyroid and hormone imbalances, liver, immune system, and brain function. Okay? And we're going to break this down for you so you understand, well, why? How does this happen and how are they linked? So here's some of the named autoimmune diseases. All right? Rheumatoid arthritis is one. Lupus is another one. Have you heard of lupus? Okay? There's a big society, the Lupus Society. Okay, scleroderma is a skin issue. Hashimoto's, I bolded that in red because it is the most common cause of thyroid disease in our country. 90 million Americans, mostly women, have thyroid disease. They've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism when in fact they have Hashimoto's disease that was undiagnosed, which is an autoimmune attack on the thyroid. So if you have thyroid disease and you've never been tested with antibodies, you got to get that done, okay? Graves' disease is also for the thyroid. Multiple sclerosis is where the body attacks the covering of the nerves, the sheath, and so then the nerve impulses slow down. Celiac disease is a genetic disease where a person has a genetic issue with processing gluten, okay, which is a protein found in wheat and rye, barley, spelt, and kamut, but nobody eats that. Right? Anybody eat kamut? Polish food. Okay. So it goes on. Fibromyalgia also. Okay. They've said for years we don't know what that is. It's an autoimmune disease. Okay. Your body's attacking the muscle tissue and the connective tissue. So we can go on and on, but let's just talk a little bit about what it is. So what is autoimmunity? All right. So it's simply where your immune system loses the ability to distinguish your own tissue from something that looks foreign. Okay? Let me just take a little digression here and talk about Hashimoto's just for a moment because it's so common. Hashimoto's is attack of the thyroid, right? In the thyroid there's an enzyme called TPO enzyme. TPO enzyme looks almost identical to gluten. Structurally, molecularly, they look almost identical. So a person who is having a reaction to celiac disease, which occurs in the gut, the immune system sees it as a foreign invader. Attack, 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 causes gut inflammation, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But then the immune system sees this TPO enzyme in the thyroid and says, wow, that looks a lot like gluten. Attack, attack, attack. Isn't that interesting? And we see this with other foods as well, not just gluten. We're now finding the same thing with foods like soy and rice, white potatoes, dairy, other grains that don't even contain gluten, like quinoa, like buckwheat. Foods that we're told, if you're gluten-free, you can eat quinoa till the cows come home. Guess what? You can't necessarily. We have people who are having an autoimmune or an immune reaction to it as well. The immune system attacks your joints, or it'll attack any kind of tissue. It'll attack your heart tissue or your lung tissue. Okay? There is no tissue in the body that is immune from your immune system. They can all be attacked. So the problem with the medical community is they admittedly say, we don't know how to stop this. Something like 23 million Americans now have been diagnosed in our country every year with autoimmune disease. Any guess how many are with cancer?
1 of 3, that's what it says.
Okay, 8 million. Some perspective, right? What about cardiac disease and stroke?
Would that be more?
Slightly more. Barely more. I read just today on the National Autoimmune Registry, 23 million of autoimmune disease and something like a little less than 25 million who have a combination of heart disease and stroke. That was eye-opening. You know, I know it's common, but it's everywhere and it's rampant. Nobody knows how to stop it. And we have all of these specialties, right? We've got cardiologists who look at the heart. We've got rheumatologists that look at the joints. We've got kidney specialists. But if you only look at one spot and don't look at all the other pieces of the web, how are you going to possibly fix it? Right? How can you fix it? So why would your immune system do this to your own tissues? I'm glad you asked. All right. The first is because of what we call dysregulation. Okay? And it can be imbalanced because of bad blood sugar control. By the way, the #1 stressor in the human body is blood sugar regulation. So, if you get irritable or lightheaded if you miss a meal, bingo. If you get fatigued after meals, blood sugar problem. #2, their adrenal glands. They're exhausted. They're worn out. You can't produce cortisol properly. You've got hormone imbalances. No wonder you're gaining weight and you can't figure out why. You're exercising. Neurologic imbalances. Your brain is foggy. You can't think straight. You've got focus and concentration problems. Proper testing is critical. We'll talk about that along the way. Proper testing, digging, and never stop asking why. Never stop asking why. Other reasons your immune system would do it, because of an active antigen. We're finding out now that this is the most common reason that I'm finding is an active antigen. You might think of that as a bug, okay, a critter, commonly. Chronic infections, bacterial, viral, mold. Had a young lady who came in today, and I saw her, it's been, gosh, almost a year ago, and frankly, we were kind of lost. Ran out of things because I didn't know how bad mold was at the time. She comes in today, she says, yeah, I've got chronic biotoxin illness. And I said, well, that's mold, right? She goes, yeah. She found a guy who practices in New York. It's all he does is mold. He's a mold specialist. She ran a test, very special test. I'd never even heard of it. Sure enough, she's got mold. So it's going to take her a long time to deal with that. Where did she get it? She was at college in her dorm room. Didn't know she had it in there. She phoned up there. She found out that the dorm, they'd had massive water damage, and all they did was cover it up with paint and stuff. So now she's finding out that a lot of her co-students in the same dorm are having all the same symptoms as her. And the symptoms of mold, by the way, mimic Lyme's disease, and they mimics Candida, which is horrible brain fog, neurologic disturbances. I mean, the list goes on and on. These are people that are left for dead by the medical community in most cases because they don't know what to do. Sorry about that. Parasites in the gut, parasites in the liver, parasites in the body. We find this all the time. Parasites, liver flukes. I know it's gross, right? Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to travel to Mexico to find it. Okay? You can get it right here in the good old US of A. All right? Food sensitivities like gluten, environmental toxins, things that we eat and breathe and rub on our skin. Undigested food, which leads to, or is part of what's called leaky gut syndrome, which we'll talk about. And heavy metals, things like mercury that are found in your dental amalgams. Okay, if you've had a cavity and you've got silver in your mouth, guess what? There's a good chance that mercury is being leached out. The gases are. I know, sad, I've got them too. I'm going to get them removed as soon as I can. Proper testing, again, critical. All right, so this is another part of this workshop here. To digress a little bit or just switch gears. There's a sheet called the neurologic assessment. Hopefully you got it. It's got a lot of yes or no's. If you didn't do it, it's all right. You can do it later. But this is what we do. This is part of what we do to help us to find out if you've got a brain-based problem and what kind of brain-based problem that you have. All right? On the neurologic assessment form, you've circled yeses and no's. Now, if you circled at least 5 yeses, then you have a brain-based problem. Okay? Anybody circle 5 or more? Okay, a few of you. All right. There's a brain-based issue here. Has anybody that you've been to addressed your brain? Maybe? A little bit? Okay. We're talking about the different lobes of the brain. They all have specific function. So in order to figure that out, you've got to get the right testing done. Okay? Now let's go back here to your we're going to link this together. Go back to your Web of Physiologic Dysfunction sheet. And right in the middle, I want you, if you haven't already, to write AI disease, right in the middle. Okay. She's smiling over there. How many did you have?
Oh, I was just reading one.
Okay.
That we had a recent episode at home that mimics one of these questions.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot. I see a lot of times when we do this, I see people going, they're just shaking their head like, yeah, that's me, that's me. And so, I'll call you out a little bit now and then. So, we're going to link this, okay? Upper right, you've got an empty spot, and you can put right in there brain. All right, and you can link it because there's an intimate connection between every autoimmune disease and your brain. Okay? Now, here's my question. In order to maximize your health and get you better, here's my comment, we have to fix your brain. Your brain has got to get fixed. If your brain doesn't get fixed, you're not going to be able to get better all the way because the brain runs the body. But not only that, the body fuels the brain. Your spine, from a chiropractic standpoint, is like a generator for brain function. Have you ever seen somebody who's been bedridden? Maybe they've been in a nursing home. They've been in a bed because they've been sick for a long time, and they start to lose focus and concentration. Their memory starts to go quick. Why? Because they're not moving. Movement is like generator for brain function, so they start to lose their brain quicker. All right? Have you ever walked into a room, and forgotten why you walked in the room? Okay. That is what we call a temporal lobe problem. It's right here on the side of the brain. That's where your memory is, short-term memory. Have you ever, maybe some of you have heard or you've even said to your loved one, or thought to yourself, you're not the same person I married 20 years ago.
Uh-oh.
Okay? Personality changes. That's frontal lobe part of the brain. Personality changes. How about this? You ever feel things that you shouldn't feel, like pain all the time, or like there are ants crawling up your leg, or that you've got this burning sensation somewhere in your body? You shouldn't feel that. Okay? That's a parietal lobe problem in the top of the brain. So how are you going to find out if you have what's going on with your brain? Which parts are dysfunctional? Is it firing correctly to other parts of the brain? You need proper testing. That's where a complete functional neurologic exam comes in. What I mean by that is not MRI, not CT scan. I'm talking about tests that we do in the office to find out if your brain is firing the way it's supposed to. And they're simple tests. And Julia, just to bring it up, I'm just thinking of your son who was in, right? And we did just a couple of tests. He's had, you mind me sharing a little bit? He's had really bad digestive issues. He's 5, right? Diarrhea. Vomiting, that's right. Started, I don't know, back in the spring, and can't figure it out. Nobody could figure it out. Well, we did just a couple little neurologic tests, and she watched him with his eyes. And I can tell right away he's got a deficient left cerebellum. It's not firing to his right frontal lobe properly. And guess what kind of kids we see who have that issue? Any ideas? What might be a common label they get?
Autistic.
Huh? Pardon?
Autistic.
Autism is one, yep. ADD. ADD and ADHD, the spectrum that they call the autism spectrum. They actually include ADD on that spectrum. It's a right brain deficiency 95% of the time, and we saw it right in front of us, okay? So we've got to evaluate that brain. The good news is, with him, we can fix that through very specific neurologic brain balancing techniques, okay? It's really cool. All right, let's keep moving here on our Web of Physiologic Dysfunction because we've got a lot to cover. Now, the next thing you're going to look at and write down is the colon. Now, if you look back for a second, there's a sheet called the Metabolic Assessment Form. It's one of the other sheets that we gave you. And it was where you circled a bunch of 0s and 1s and 2s and 3s. And if you look at Category 1 on there, and if you circled any 1s, 2s, or 3s, then you have a colon problem. Okay, so you can write colon in there. Those should be 0s. Right? So you can write colon and you can link it to the brain. Now here's my question for you. How many doctors have you been to, okay, that have addressed your brain problem and your colon problem? Okay? Usually people say, well, none. okay? If you have autoimmune disease, okay, that's being caused by a brain problem and a colon problem, what do you think your results are going to be? Not too good, right? If you've got a brain problem and a colon problem and you've got an autoimmune disease, how is it going to get fixed unless those things are addressed? It's not. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Let's keep moving. Let's move to the next section. If you look on your metabolic it's going to be category 4 and 5. Category 4 and 5 is stomach. Right? Stomach, where you break down all your food with hydrochloric acid. How many doctors have you been to that have addressed your brain, your colon, and your stomach? Again, there are specialists. You might go to a GI doctor, but are they going to look at the brain? Probably not. Let's keep going. Let's look at category 6 on your sheet. If you circled 1s, 2s, or 3s in category 6, then you've got a small intestine problem as well. Now here's what's so important about this. And there's a little space that you can write some of this down. This is where 90% of your food is broken down and assimilated in this section, the colon, the stomach, and the small intestine. Okay? And if you are unable to break down your food, you could be eating the best food on earth and taking the best nutritional supplements, but if you can't break it down to absorb it, it's all for naught. And people complain why their pee is yellow, right? Doc, are these doing anything? Well, maybe not, because maybe it's not getting absorbed because you've got a problem in here. And food is your fuel source for healing. So if we jump back and think about lifestyle change, you got to make a lifestyle change if you haven't already. There's going to be some big changes in your diet. Now, what you can do on your sheet then is you can draw a kidney bean shaped line around those 3 organs. And what we're going to do is we're going to refer to those 3 organs here on out as the gut. Okay, this is your gut. This is a whole topic in and of itself. I've given full seminars just on leaky gut syndrome. And this, I can't spend a whole lot of time, but we're going to talk about this a little bit. Tell me what % of your immune system is in your gut. Anybody know?
70?
It's a good guess. 70. What do you say?
50.
50? Okay. Anybody? 80. 80%
Oh.
of your immune system is in your gut. Okay. There are, by the way, there are more neurons in your gut, that means nerve cells, in your gut than there are in your brain. We actually call it the little brain because it's its own nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system. And you can link the gut to the brain because there's a bidirectional pathway that occurs there. It's called the gut-brain connection. There are books and articles, tons of them out there nowadays, talking about the link between the gut and the brain, and how if you've got a gut problem, you've got a brain problem. Bad gut equals bad brain. So the question is, how well is your gut and body going to heal when 80% of your immune system is in your gut and you've got a gut that's not working properly? If you've circled 1s, 2s, or 3s on colon, stomach, and small intestine, then you've got a gut problem. Can you see that? How now 80% of your immune system is there? This is the start. This is the stage. This is where most of autoimmunity starts, right in the gut. So if this is not addressed, you're going to have a hard time fixing anything. And here's just a nice picture about autoimmunity and leaky gut connection. And this just shows an arrow. The arrow is blasting right through the lining of the gut. See, the small intestine is 1 cell layer thick. Its job is to keep bad stuff out and let nutrients into the bloodstream. But you've got all these different types of stressors in here, like dietary proteins that you're not digesting, like gluten, for example. Drugs or xenobiotics that people have taken. Physical and emotional stress. Do you know that 5 minutes of anger causes your the the covering layer, what I call the slime layer, but it's your immune system, that covering layer in your small intestine to increase by about 30%. In other words, I'm sorry, increase to decrease. Literally 5 minutes of anger causes the surface, the protective mechanism to decrease. That's emotional stress right there, how that affects your body. So you get intestinal barrier dysfunction, the small intestine breaks down. You start to develop more food allergies and intolerances. You get more immune system abnormalities. You ever wonder why maybe you're always sick all the time? I get colds 4 or 5 times a winter. I just can never seem to get well. Your immune system is depressed. And then it leads to autoimmunity, and then you've got an influence on the blood-brain barrier. So within our brain, we have a very tight barrier from things getting into the brain. It's called the blood-brain barrier. But when stuff starts to get through the leaky gut, you develop what's called leaky brain syndrome. And that is where people start to complain about brain fog. I can't concentrate, doc. I have a woman here that was here today, okay? Heidi. So Heidi has been dealing, she had chronic Lyme's disease. So she's better, she's healed of that. But she would describe to me, when it was worse, the worst times is her brain would shake. That's how brain fog would affect her. And she'd have nightmares that wake her up in the middle of the night, and she would literally feel like she was, like a demon was attacking her and her brain was shaking. Really crazy. So guess what? We put her on a severe gut repair program. We took away a whole bunch of foods that she shouldn't be eating. We supported her organs that were deficient, and she's doing great. She's doing great. So we've got this gut connection. Now, how are we going to know if a person has a leaky gut or a bad gut problem? You have to do the right testing. The right testing includes what's called a leaky gut test. It's a blood test. It also includes looking to see if you've got a gluten intolerance. I see celiac disease. Okay. Well, you can find celiac disease through the testing they do. They'll actually biopsy. Did you have a tissue biopsy and the whole bit? And they look at some antibodies. But a lot of people don't have celiac disease. They don't have a genetic issue, but they still have what's called non-gluten or non-celiac sprue, which is where they have the same symptoms, the same reactions, it's just not genetic. So they go and do that test, and it says fine. It says normal, and so the person is told you can eat gluten. Can you see where that might be trouble? So we run a different test that is more comprehensive, and it'll tell you, boom, if you've got a gluten problem. What about gut infections? We run stool tests a lot to find out if a person has some kind of a parasite or a yeast infection. You've got to find these folks. If you don't get this testing done, you're going to be left in the dark. You're not going to know what we're dealing with. Okay, we need to keep going here. We need to keep going here. I've got 30 minutes of stuff to talk about in 10 minutes. No, but we are going to move fast here. The next issue has to do with blood sugar regulation, so you can put that on your sheet as well. Okay? I said earlier, blood sugar control is the #1 stressor in the body. #1 stressor. Your blood sugar needs to be between 85 and 99 fasting, which means you have to have your blood drawn in the morning, and you shouldn't have eaten anything. If it is below 85, it's called hypoglycemia. These are people who, if you circled 1s, 2s, or 3s in the section on irritable or lightheaded if I miss meals, and that's going to be in category, this form just changed. It's going to be in category 9 and 10. Category 9 has to do with hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. Category 10, if you're above 99, typically goes with category 10, which is insulin resistance moving towards diabetes. By the way, diabetes is now considered an autoimmune disease. Okay? If you didn't know that, it's not just a blood sugar problem, it's a web of physiologic dysfunction. Insulin will never cure you, but we have people who are diabetic who were diabetic and they're not diabetic anymore without drugs. Okay? That can happen. So, other folks, instead of just being low or high, they dance all over the place. That's what we call dysglycemia. These are folks that are, sometimes it's low, sometimes it's too high. You're fatigued after lunch, okay? Or you feel like you're going to crash in the afternoon unless you get a caramel macchiato from Starbucks, right? Or in the morning you wake up and even after 6 more hours of sleep, you're exhausted. This is blood sugar control. How do we figure that out? You need proper testing. We've got to look at your fasting glucose. We've got to look at your HbA1c. That's the marker that diabetics look at. Okay? We've got to know what's going on with blood sugar. Next, you can write in their adrenals. The next section we have to look at are the adrenal glands. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the adrenals. The adrenals are little tiny glands that sit on top of your kidneys, but they are powerhouses because they release your stress hormones. They release cortisol. They release adrenaline. It's also called epinephrine. Cortisol is your main fight or flight hormone. Okay? There's a line above it, one of those lines there, you could write in cortisol if you like. And then the arrow going up to cortisol, adrenals. Cortisol is meant for short-term survival. Okay, God gave us cortisol so that if I'm about to get hit by a bus, I can jump out of the way really fast. Okay? But it wasn't meant to be released over and over and over chronically all the time. When it is released over and over and over all the time, it bathes a part of your brain called the hippocampus. You can just write hippo, that's easy to remember. The hippocampus is where your circadian rhythm is. That's your sleep cycles. So, if you look at the next category on your list, which is going to be probably on the next page, it's going to be category 11 and 12. Category 11 and 12 has to do with the adrenal glands. So people will tell me, Doc, I can't fall asleep. I lay in bed for 2 or 3 hours and I cannot go to sleep. Or they say, Doc, I wake up at 2 in the morning. Anybody wake up at 2 in the morning? Almost every night, right? You go up for an hour or two and then you go back to sleep. Or, again, you wake up in the morning and you're exhausted even though you've gotten 10 hours of sleep. This is about your adrenal glands. This is cortisol. Cortisol affects the hippocampus and slows down or affects your circadian rhythm or sleep cycle. Also, that's where your short-term memory is. So, if you've got chronic states of stress, chronic cortisol, you can't sleep, and now your memory's not so good, pretty good chance your adrenals are tanked. The other thing adrenals do is they release something called epinephrine. Epinephrine happens to bathe pain fibers. Okay? So if I took that electrical wire right there, and I took a piece of sandpaper, and I went like this long enough, right, I'm going to irritate that thing. If that's a nerve, and I've got chronic epinephrine release bathing that pain fiber, can you say fibromyalgia? Can you say chronic arthritic pain? Okay, a big source of that comes from the adrenal glands being tanked. It's releasing this stuff over and over and over. Cortisol and epinephrine. So, can you see now what I'm talking about when I say the words web of physiologic dysfunction, and how it's not just one thing; it's a whole conglomeration of things that have to be looked at simultaneously. It's impossible for you just to have autoimmune disease. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about short-term memory. We talked about pain. How do we find out if the adrenals are in the tank? Proper testing. Proper testing is not through a blood test. Proper testing is through a saliva test. A saliva looks at cortisol levels. It's the only way we're really going to know. Now, so we've been talking about this here, okay? We've been talking about this web of physiologic dysfunction. And my job tonight is to reinvent your life, right? So in order to reinvent your life, we've got to find out how to unlock you, right? We've got to find out how to unlock you. And everybody has their own combination. Laura, is Laura? It's partly obscured there. Laura, okay. So would you agree that your combination to whatever you're dealing with is probably different than hers? Absolutely, right? Everyone's is. So did a few of you get a lock? Who got a lock? You got one?
I ended up with one.
You got one too? All right. Anybody else? Get one?
I have
Should be 3. You got one. 3 in a row. Okay. So we're gonna use this a little bit here, okay? Unlocking your health. Now, did any of you fiddle with it? Try to open it?
No.
Okay. Would you be able to open it? Do you think?
No.
Why?
Not really
combination.
You don't know the combination. Very good. Okay, so in order to get your life back, we've got to figure out what your combination is. All right, so let's keep moving forward here. Now, if you've got a brain problem, okay, let's assume now that those of you who have a lock have a brain problem, because you've circled at least 5 or more yeses on the neurologic assessment form, and we probably have done a neurologic exam by this point, and we know you've got a brain problem, okay? If you've got a brain problem, I want you to turn the first number to 4, okay? Turn the first number on that combo to 4. Got it? Okay, can you open that lock? No. Okay. Now, if you have a gut problem, all right, I want you to turn the second number to 1. You've got a gut problem. Okay, open that lock. Will it open?
No.
No. Okay. So you didn't get lucky and just guess it. Can I just take a second and say that the last time I did something like this, I was with a community ed class through the Chaska district, and the first number turned. She goes, "It opened." Okay. So, all right. Anyway, you can't open that lock because you don't have the right combination. So, there's a couple more things we need to talk about to get to the right combination, okay? So we're almost done. Don't worry. We're getting there. We're getting to it. We have to look at the thyroid gland. There should be one blank space there that you can write in thyroid. Now, what is so important about the thyroid gland? Oh my goodness. The thyroid gland is unbelievably important because every cell in your body has receptors for thyroid hormone. Okay? It's the only gland or the only hormone that can say that. Not every cell has receptors for estrogen, for example, or for testosterone or cortisol, but every one has receptors for thyroid hormone. So if your thyroid is not working properly and getting enough thyroid hormone to the cells and into those receptors, do you think you're going to have trouble? You're going to have trouble because thyroid controls metabolism for the whole body. It's what generates the function of every cell in your body, thyroid hormone. And how are you going to find out if you have a thyroid problem? Remember, I've been talking about proper testing. It's pretty darn important over and over and over. Most people who have come into my office who, as I said earlier, have been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, this is what they've had done for testing. TSH and T4, that's it. They've had the top 2 done. Now, if TSH is high, outside of the lab range, they say you have hypothyroidism. And then they give you Synthroid or levothyroxine, or they might give you Armour, which is a bioidentical, it's from pig glandulars. Now, what if the person has an immune attack on the thyroid and they've done those tests? How would you know? How would you know? Meanwhile, this is what I hear. Doc, I've been taking Synthroid for 5 years. My TSH levels look great. My doctor's really happy with where my TSH looks on my labs, but I feel like crap. I have the same symptoms. I'm no better. Why? Because they're using pharmaceuticals to bring a number to within a range that they think looks good. Okay? Now you can do the same thing with a supplement. The difference is winding up the organ and finding out what's driving it, finding the cause, never stop asking why. So what do? We have to run these antibodies. And I'm telling you, we find it all the time. We run the antibodies, and sure enough, they're elevated, and the person has Hashimoto's disease. Now we've got a whole different ballgame. It's not a thyroid problem anymore. It never was. It's an immune problem. So if we continue to address it as a thyroid problem and not as an immune problem, this person is going to continue on a downward spiral. And this is where people are. And this is why people have been told that it's incurable. This is where they've been told that it's progressively getting worse. And I'm sorry, no hope. Downward spiral. I'm sick and tired of this, guys. Okay? So, and that's why I'm here tonight. 'Cause I could be home, just like you could be home with your wives and families and kids, right? But I'm sick and tired of this, and it just chaps me because people are being mismanaged with drugs because that's the only thing they know. It's the only thing they know. Let me share this with you. This is from a gal named Laura, who, by the way, had Hashimoto's disease. She says, At my annual physical, my blood work showed a possible thyroid issue, so my doctor told me to come back in 6 months to have it rechecked. That may be bad, so come back in 6 months. Sorry. Waiting around for 6 months seems pointless to me, so I went to Vallejo for advice. I was having consistent symptoms anyway that I had shared with my general doctor at the time, and they'd been waved off as casual concerns, so I shared these same 5 health symptoms with Dr. Rob. Low-grade anxiety, stomach bloating and gas, aching joints, slow bowels, and sleeping issues. Dr. Rob listened carefully and strongly recommended a temporary gut repair diet after we found the testing. I began to research his plan and the eating routines that would be necessary if I was to follow doctor's orders. After 3 to 6 days on the plan, my aching joints didn't ache, my bowels were moving better, and I'd lost 2 pounds. In the next 2 weeks, my anxiety was lessened and I had more emotional strength. After 4 to 5 weeks, all my symptoms were gone and I had lost 12 pounds to boot. I wasn't trying to lose weight. This was a surprise bonus I was not expecting. So, her case is another example of, here's a drug, Synthroid, this is your option, or wait 6 months and see what happens. Not good enough for her, and it's not good enough for me. So we've got, on our lot, we've got a 4 and we've got a 1. So, what we've been talking about, we just talked about thyroid. Thyroid can affect your brain, out of order. Thyroid will affect your digestive system. It will slow down your bowels. Remember category 1. It will affect your stomach, your ability to produce hydrochloric acid and ability to break down and digest foods. It will affect your small intestine. It will affect your gallbladder, and it will affect your adrenal glands. That's the thyroid. Pretty darn important to know what's happening with the thyroid, don't you think? Yeah. This is why you have a web of physiologic dysfunction. Now, what I want you to do now, because we've kind of completed the puzzle there, is I want you to turn the next number to 1. Turn the next number to 1. So what does 411 mean?
Information.
Information, right? So here you are tonight, right? And I've been talking to you for a little less than an hour, and I've been giving you lots of information. You've taken some notes, it's been great, okay? But here's the thing. Knowledge without action is useless. You've got this great knowledge and this information. Now you've got to decide tonight what you want to do. Remember the crossroads? Okay, we don't twist arms, we don't push people, we don't do anything. But we have answers here, and at some point, if you or the person you love has an issue, an autoimmune issue, you've got to make a decision. Am I going to do something about this or not? And here's what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing. We've been going to our doctor. Hold this for me. Do this lock. I want you to hold it just like this, okay? And you've got your lock, which is your life, and you're saying, Doc, unlock me. Unlock me. And this is what they're going to do. They've got pills, and potions, and lotions. And you cannot poison your way back to health. You can't. You can't poison yourself back to health. And that's what's happening here. What is this now? Broken. Okay? This is what we're talking about. Broken lock. The light, you can have that. Okay? You can have that. Thanks for playing. You looked a little scared there. I've only cut one finger off. No, just kidding. But listen, right? Now this life is broken because this is what they've had to do. We want to unlock you. And so we talked about this. You've got 2 choices: to be unbroken or to be unlocked. So I'm going to go through here some action steps, okay? There's 4 action steps, and you can write these down, okay? Because if you just did this information and didn't do anything or know what the action steps were, then this was a useless time, I think. Number 1, you're going to set an appointment. And we're going to make it extremely easy for you because we're going to let you come in here for free, okay? And here's what this includes. The first visit is an hour. You'll sit down with me. Now, our full fees for these 2 visits I'm going to talk to you about are $350. But what we're doing right now, we've been doing this lately for people that have come in too, is an hour to sit down with me for a consultation, and a 45-minute follow-up visit. It's called a report of findings, for free. No strings. I won't push you into do anything, but we'll find out if there's something we can do to help you. Does that make sense? Who here thinks there's strings? A couple of you do, okay? There's a few patients in here that might vouch for how we act.
No strings.
No strings.
Three.
Okay.
To you.
Praise God.
Is that $20?
No.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'll give you the $20.
There you go.
No strings, folks, okay? Because why? Because we can help you. We can help you, okay? But you've got to set an appointment. Because if you leave here tonight, you won't set an appointment. This is what we've learned over and over and over. You just won't. Fact is, Dr. Nate Samuelson will help. We can set that up. It'll take 5 minutes, okay? And if you don't know your calendar, still set something up. Go home, get on the calendar, go home and find it out, and then call us back and say, well, I'm on there, but I need to switch it, okay? There's no reason not to. By the way, something else that I've added recently to that second visit, the report of findings, is you get a first treatment as well, for free. Because we believe so strongly in our brain-based therapies that it will help you, that there's no charge for that. Okay? How are we going to help your condition? Well, as I said, there's no magic pill. There's no magic pill. But we've got to find, through your lab tests, we've got to find out what's driving this thing. We've got to remove the causes of this dysregulation. This is the how. You can take this right now and go do it, if you knew what to do. You knew what to do. You got to remove the causes, all right? If you've got a gluten issue, you've got to take that out of your diet, and that's a huge lifestyle change. You know. Okay. You've got to repair your damaged tissues. How do you do that? Nobody ever healed anybody of anything. No doctor has ever healed anybody of anything, including me. God put inside of you the ability to heal. It's inside there. It's intelligent. Your body is wise. It knows how to heal you. My goodness, have you ever cut your finger and put a Band-Aid on it, right? We all have. Did the Band-Aid heal your cut? No, it's preposterous. Why would we think that we could put a drug or a supplement into somebody and that's going to actually heal their internal damage? It's the same thing. The body heals the cut. The Band-Aid just kept the stuff out. So we've got to repair that. How? We give you nutritional supplements, not to put a Band-Aid on it, but to supply the nutrients that the body needs to do the healing, okay? Your body knows how to heal itself. We need to balance your immune system. Again, you need specific nutrients, both with your diet, what you choose to put in your body, and most people need something from the outside to help support those organs. Then, finding through neurologic tests the imbalances in the firing of your brain, all right? Like the little boy that I was just talking about. He had an imbalance in the firing from his left cerebellum to his right frontal lobe. We can fix that. And then improve brain function with oxygen and brain-based therapies. This is how we help people get better. The second action step is this. You go online, onto YouTube. We have a channel there. And you're going to watch What Makes Us Unique, if you haven't already. It's going to give you some of the same information that I gave you tonight, but it's pretty darn helpful to know what's different about Vallejo. And then you can go to our website and watch What to Expect on Your First Visit. Why? So you know what to expect on your first visit, right? When you come in, this is how things are going to work. People that are informed and prepared do better. The third action step is that you've got to fill out all the paperwork that we have for you, and it's thorough paperwork, before you come to the office. Because if you come in here and you're not done with your paperwork, and I've got you at 2 o'clock, and I've got an hour, and we've got a lot to cover, we don't want to be late. It's not fair to anybody, okay? So fill out your paperwork before you come in. Bring a t-shirt and shorts. You've got to do that in order for me to do a thorough exam, a full exam on the whole body. I already talked about what happens on the first visit. Full exam, consultation. In the second visit, we go over what we found during the exam. We go over what we found on all of your forms. We review the assessment forms. And then if we accept your case, we'll talk about any testing that needs to be done. We'll give you an overview of what my treatment plan would be for you, okay, to the best of our ability, because things change. And we'll talk about what finances will be like. What's it going to cost? We'll answer all those questions for you, and we'll give you your first visit. We'll give you your first treatment. And the last action step is this. And as I just said this, at the end of your first visit, you will have to set up a report of findings, okay? With you and your spouse. Why? Because I've done this too many times where the wife comes in, it's always the wife, by the way, who comes in for the care. The husband is, look at this, there's 2 guys in this group, right? This is the way it is. So, wife comes in, we do a full exam. Then we do a report. She goes home and tries to explain everything that just happened to her husband, who's already skeptical, who already doesn't believe in chiropractors because they're quacks and they're not scientific and they're not real doctors, right? And she's going to fail miserably. And I see it happen too many times. And then I get a phone call. Sorry, doc, we can't do anything because my husband doesn't believe in it. Come on, bring them, okay? Or bring somebody. So, we've gone over the 4 action steps that it's going to take to get started on the road. So what I want you to do, if you have a lock, is I want you to turn the last combination to 4 to unlock your life. Did it work? It unlocked you. That's how we do it. That's how people get well. That's how people get better. And I'm going to end with this.
Help me
Okay?
out,
I'm
sight.
going to end here now. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. Okay, we started a little late. We're just right about an hour. Appreciate you coming. I know that you could be home, all right? But even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Okay? It's time to stop sitting there now. Stop. Okay? Get in here, make an appointment. If not now, when? When are you going to do it?